Are you an entrepreneur? Are you trying to solve a very big problem? Do you have an idea that could solve it, whether it is cheaper, better, or faster? Excellent. This is a fantastic start. So, what do you do next? You probably will need to look for experts to help you build and test that idea. And probably you will need investors to pay for those experts in the first place. And a customer who will actually pay for that idea so that you can convince the investors. Well, now you need a lawyer to set up the term of the investment, and an accountant to be sure that her money is spent appropriately and to satisfy regulators. Oh, and by the way, I hope your idea is sustainable, inclusive, and fair, because the general public has already an idea about it. And I forgot, you need a board member, and a human resource, and a marketing guy, etc., etc. You see, very quickly things start to get very complicated because your employees, your investors, your customer, your advisor all comes with their own agenda, their own values, their own constraint, their own expectation, and complexity is daunting. It's forgivable to be dismayed by the multitudes of causes and consequences and how everything seems to be so interconnected. It is important to simplify things. Mathematical models are used to simplify the law of nature to make them usable. Financial models are simplified forecasts of the company expenses and earning. And business plan is a simplified version of its strategy. Even KPIs are a simplified representation of wanted outcomes and behavior. But it is equally important to abandon the urge to simplify everything, especially when it comes to human. You are not going to understand your peers, your investors, or your customer using formulas or KPI. Instead, you need to think multidimensionally. You need to tolerate uncertainty, embrace confusion, and appreciate the fact that life is complex. Peter said, if you are not confused, you are not paying attention. My name is Olivier Seberio, and I would like to welcome you to the Defacto Entrepreneur. Today, we are going to talk about changing your perspective so that you can try sorting this complexity out. At first, being an entrepreneur may seem like managing a rowing team. You are the coxswain, the boat captain, and you need to assemble a team of rowers who will actually do the propulsion of the boat. Some will be your employees, other your investors or your customer, and your role as a coxswain is to steer the boat and keep the crew in sync. They don't see where they are going, but thanks to your visionary and communication skills, you will lead them where it's needed. If you are incredibly talented in convincing people, this may work and actually be very beautiful to see. Imagine the water turn into foam as the boat effortlessly fends its way by the stroke of the oars. That's beautiful. However, for the most of us, mortal creatures who were born with some type of Jedi like power, the reality may be very different. Maybe your employee wants to row, but toward a different direction or at a different pace. Maybe your investors wanted to be the coxswain in the first place. Or maybe your customer had no idea she was supposed to row. And as a result, your boat operates chaotically, inefficiently, and frustratingly. And you could even be tempted to think that, if only those people could simply listen to me and do what I tell them to do. Quickly, they would see how right I am. Well, it never really worked like that, right? Instead, try to imagine entrepreneurship as if you were parachuted on a very large boat, like a cruise ship. You may have an idea of where you want to go, but you actually have no idea where you are or where the boat is heading. You are surrounded with strangers, the boat moves around, it yaws, it rolls, and you have no control about that. You also have no idea about who steers the boat, who operates it, and what moves it. At first, the reality may be a little bit overwhelming, but quickly your first action would probably to ask someone where you are and where you are going so that you can understand how far you are from your goal. Then you would try to understand how things actually work. What moves a boat? Is there a captain, a mechanic? Can you find them? Can you speak with them? In this scenario, you start by making sense of your context and start to conduct an investigative work to understand who are the stakeholders and what is their influence on that context. Once you get a good grasp of what's going on, then you can only start to see how your vision fits or not the reality of your system. And only then you can start to think strategically. From that point, you may start to ask yourself questions such as, why is the boat heading in that direction? Should you try to steer the boat? Or maybe try to go into another boat? And if you decide to change the direction of that boat, who do you need to speak with? Who do you need to mobilize? Will everybody agree? Would some people disagree? And if they disagree, why? What I'm trying to illustrate with these two metaphors is a very important change in mindset that I would like you to try out. Instead of viewing yourself as a key player trying to enable things and viewing everything as a set of interpersonal relationship, I would like to try to see yourself and others as actor in a larger context that also acts on you. And this approach has several advantages. First, it is strategic. By understanding in which context you operate, you will be in a better position to mobilize resources, identify new partnerships, and create new approaches that you may not have been able to identify otherwise. And in a context of scarce resources, very common with startups, this can play a key role in your success. It is comprehensive because by making sense of the context around you will force you to question and test the validity of your idea. And you will have to do it beyond a simple market analysis, because by factoring the perception of other stakeholders, you will be forced to factor non-monetary concerns such as reputation, perception of feasibility, past experience in your assessment. And finally, it is healthy because now you are not the hero anymore. You are just one player among others whose perspective is maybe not better than the others. It forces you to start from a place of humility, which is a great platform for learning and the experimental process of entrepreneurship. So, how do we do that? Instead of seeing the world as you trying to go from point A to B to achieve your vision and viewing the others as almost getting on your way, start with a problem. What is it that you are trying to solve? And put it at the center. And from that, start to look at your environment as a web of stakeholders. In our cruise ship, we probably have a whole range of passengers, captain managing the ship, a navigator deciding where to go, a mechanic in charge of the propulsion, crew in charge of taking care of the passenger. It is also probable that the ship direction is influenced by other people that are not even on the ship, like the owner or port authorities. Each and every one of these stakeholders will have a different perception of where the ship is supposed to go. Most probably, most of the passengers are already happy with the current direction. The mechanic probably doesn't care about where the ship is heading, while the navigator will probably want to avoid reef and icebergs. The captain may be more concerned about the punctuality of the ship than the comfort of the passenger, for example. They may have a different stake in deciding where to go. Maybe the passenger don't care if you go to Tahiti or Tuamotu as long as it is a round trip that will bring them back home at the end. The captain will probably lose his job, however, if he doesn't go to the right place, while the crew or the mechanic will not care about the final destination. They may also have different level of engagement. The captain and the navigator are obviously very engaged in the process. The passenger or the crew, not so much. They may have a different influence on the system. If the mechanic is unhappy, the ship is not going to go far, while the passenger start with the same lack of influence as you. As you can see, with that very simple framework, we can already gather information that will be very useful for you as an entrepreneur. By identifying the stakeholders and what drives them, you can start making sense of your context. You will be in a much better position to evaluate the validity of your idea and design a strategy with greater chance of success because you will have a better understanding of the constraints and opportunities that are existing in your system. This system of stakeholders will become our main diagnostic tool, and we will continue to refine it as we move along. In the next few videos, we are also going to focus on a new and a very exciting concept that will be crucial for our analysis, the concept of work. I really can't wait. Again, I really want to welcome you on board of my video channel, and bye for now.